Most men are raised with a naive understanding of power. They think it's about being liked, being polite, being reasonable, but Machiavelli knew better. True power is not about virtue, it's about control. And the first law of Machiavellian intelligence is this: 1. Understand and control the dynamics of power. Power isn't just a tool. It's an ongoing game. A game of influence, manipulation, and strategic positioning. And you can't win at this game unless you understand its rules. Machiavelli observed that most people fall into predictable patterns. They act based on emotion, desire, and immediate gratification. But those who understand power see beyond the surface. They anticipate moves, read situations, and know when to strike and when to stay silent. The key is timing and positioning. You don't have to dominate everyone. You just need to control the flow of the game. And to do that, you must understand how power moves in every situation. Who is leading and who is following. Who is controlling the conversation and who is being controlled. This law isn't about brute force. It's about subtle dominance. Recognizing when others are vulnerable and using that knowledge to advance your position. You don't need to assert yourself loudly. You need to manipulate the perception of power because perception is reality. Jung would say this is about self-awareness. The man who understands the dynamics of power is not driven by the shadow of insecurity. He is aware of his instincts and he uses them to influence others without being overt about it. Adler would recognize this as social power not based on approval, but on how a person controls their relationships, emotions, and boundaries. Machiavelli's first law: understand and control the dynamics of power. It's not about being liked or playing fair. It's about controlling the game. Now let us move into the second law: how silence and presence can become your most dangerous weapon. But before we do, remember, power is not about dominance. It's about control and knowing when to act. The first law is about understanding power, but the second law is where true Machiavellian intelligence starts to shift the balance in your favor. 2. Master the art of silence. Silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of control. And the man who understands how to remain silent controls the conversation before it even begins. Machiavelli knew that to truly dominate, you don't have to speak all the time. In fact, the most powerful figures in history were often those who spoke the least but acted the most strategically. Silence forces others to reveal themselves. When you stay silent, others are left to fill the void. They talk too much. They expose their vulnerabilities. They reveal their desires, their insecurities, their motivations, all without you lifting a finger. Jung would describe this as psychological containment, the ability to hold your emotional energy without needing to express it immediately. By doing so, you make others uncomfortable, and in that discomfort, they begin to self-regulate. This creates an imbalance. It puts them at a disadvantage because they must react to your presence instead of you reacting to their words. And that subtle shift in power is what makes silence such a powerful tool. Adler would recognize this as the ultimate form of social power. In a world full of chatter and noise, the man who remains still is the one who commands attention, not because he is loud, but because he is deliberate. Silence, when used strategically, forces others to seek you out, to attempt to draw you into the conversation. When you master the art of silence, you not only control the situation, you shape it. This is why silence is so unsettling to people. It exposes their need for validation. It makes them question their own value, and in that questioning, they begin to chase your approval. Silence is the most dangerous tool in Machiavelli's playbook because it reveals everything without you doing a thing. So, the second law of dark intelligence: master the art of silence. When you learn to withhold your words, you unlock the power of presence and the ability to dominate without a single spoken word. Next, we'll dive into the third law: how perception is everything. and why controlling how others see you is the ultimate form of manipulation. By now, you've learned that silence is a powerful tool. But true Machiavellian intelligence goes a step further. It's about manipulating perception. 3. Control the perception of others. Your actions, your words, your decisions, they are not as important as how others interpret them. Machiavelli knew that perception is what governs how others react to you. It's not about what you truly are. It's about what they think you are. Think about this. When you walk into a room, do you control how you are seen, or do you leave that up to the people around you? The key to Machiavellian intelligence is shaping that perception before anyone else has the chance. You create a persona. You create an image. You create a story, one that others buy into, not because it's true, but because it's what you've led them to believe. Jung would see this as the persona, the mask we wear for the world. Most men fail because they don't consciously control the mask they wear. They let others define them. But the Machiavellian figure is different. He is the architect of his own image. Every move he makes is designed to reinforce the perception he wants others to hold. This doesn't mean you refaking who you are. It means you are strategically revealing only the aspects of yourself that serve your purpose. You don't show weakness. You don't show insecurity. You show exactly what people need to see in order to put you in a position of power. Adler would recognize this as social strategy. The idea that, in any given social scenario, you can shape how people view you and in doing so, control the way they behave toward you. When you control how others see you, you manipulate their actions. They will seek your approval. They will cater to your needs. They will begin to align with your desires because their perception of you is tied to their need for validation. This law isn't about lying, it's about strategic revelation. You choose which parts of yourself to highlight and which parts to withhold. Here's the truth. You are not judged by who you truly are. You are judged by how others perceive you. So if you want power, you must control that perception from the start. It's not enough to be intelligent, capable, or talented. You need to be perceived as such. The third law of dark intelligence: control the perception of others. When you master this law, you become a force that others cannot help but align with. You shape the way people see you, and in doing so, you shape the way they behave around you. In the next segment, we'll explore the fourth law: how to use calculated unpredictability to keep others off balance and ultimately in your control. You've learned to use silence and control perception. But to truly master influence, you must learn the power of disengagement, when and how to withdraw. This isn't about abandonment. It's about creating psychological space that forces others to come to you. The greatest leaders knew this. By pulling away, they created a vacuum that others felt compelled to fill. It's simple. The more you pull away, the more others will seek your attention. Humans crave what they cannot have. When you remove your presence, you leave them in a state of longing and uncertainty. Scarcity amplifies value. By withdrawing, you don't just hold your ground, you increase your perceived worth. The key is to do it from a position of strength, not need. So, when was the last time you allowed someone to truly miss you? Master this, and you will never have to chase again. Next, we'll discuss how to maintain the upper hand by controlling the flow of information.